Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to help you cruise a little smarter. I am joined today by my lovely co-host, Christy. Christy, how are we today?
I feel like I'm about to cough, so I was actually repressing it and it went away. So there you go. That's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I am recovering from this illness that I have.
Yes, unfortunately, Christy was down and out for quite a few days. She missed all the fun in Orlando this weekend.
I know.
We had so many people out for the Marathon Olympic trials right in our backyard.
My God, I'm so jealous.
Amazing. All the events and everything.
You are living your absolute best life. It is adorable.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. It was so cool. Like getting to like meet with all these brands and stuff and then like see all these athletes. It was such a cool weekend. But turning towards cruising, we have a fun cruise to talk about. We are going back on the Wish for this one.
Woohoo! And
with that, I'd like to welcome to the show, Amy. Amy, how are you today?
I'm trying not to cough. I think I took Christy's cough. So I've been really, I thought, should I mute myself? But I think I'll be okay. I'm not sick. I'm just empathizing deeply with Christy.
Well, welcome to the show, Amy. Let's go ahead and start with a little bit about your Disney background and cruising background and kind of what led you to booking this cruise on the Wish.
How long do I have? The short answer to the long answer. I did not grow up going to Disney World at all, and I had never been on a cruise until I was in my 30s, and my husband and I were trying to find ways to visit with my parents who live in Virginia. We live in Missouri, and when we moved here, it was pretty easy to get back and forth, and then they did away with the nonstop flight that I loved, and so it became more difficult, and we realized that it's easier for us both to get to Orlando than it was for us to go to each other's houses. And with the way Magical Express worked at the time, you could dispense with the need for car seats, and it was magical. So we ended up trying a cruise for the first time, all of us. None of us had cruised before. This was in, I think, about 2013, and we went on the Magic. And we had such a great time. We decided to do it again the next year. We went on a 5-day cruise the second time. We've just done one since then until this most recent cruise. And again, it was my husband, my 2 sons, and my parents and me. Then COVID happened. We didn't cruise for a very long, sad time. Just this past December, I had the idea that wouldn't it be fun if for my son's 12th birthday, we went on a cruise, just the 2 of us. My husband and my older son were going to be busy with things. So I just had this, it seemed like a crazy idea, but I mentioned it to my husband and he said, go for it. And so I jumped right on it and called Christy. I had been working with a Disney travel agent before who had since retired. So it was time for me to join Christy's ranks, and was happy to actually get to talk to her in person. I feel like I know you all because I've been listening to the podcast for so long. So we reached out to Christy, and previously we had always booked cruises pretty well in advance. And we had chosen either we were concierge or we were cruising with my parents and they were concierge, but this was so last minute that we really didn't have much of a selection. And I think we actually got the last room on the Wish for my son's birthday weekend. And then I called Christy in a panic later that day because I had realized literally 2 hours after Christy said, okay, you're putting down this money and it's done. Because it was going to be too late to change anything. And I said, oh, yes, I'm ready to do it. And I realized about 2 hours later that I had doubled myself for that weekend. And so I called her to panic and I said, what can I do? And I'm sure that she can't guarantee this ever happening for anybody, but she was able to just get my cruise moved a week later. So unfortunately, we didn't cruise on my son's actual 12th birthday, but he was totally fine with that. We still got to go. We had a similar room. I think it was still one of the very last rooms available on the ship. We cruised on MLK weekend on the Wish.
It's so fun. It was just you and your son. I love that.
It was really different because we were used to cruising with a group of 6 and we went from 6 to 2. And the last time I cruised with him, he was Gosh, it was 2019, I think. So he was only 5 then. He was 7.
That's a big difference, though.
Yes, 7 to 12. So last time we went, boys were firmly Oceaneers Club guys, and now Tom was old enough to be in the Edge.
And required.
It's changed. Actually required to be in Edge. That's right.
Right. That happened like right after you booked, like I want to say days after, right? That it switched over to that.
Right. I got the email and forwarded it to you. And I said, did you know this was happening?
Okay.
So yes, I wasn't too upset about the change for my son. I was pretty sure he would probably spend most of his time at the Edge anyway, but I could really see it being a problem if I had planned a trip around him being able to go to the lab, because I think the way it ended up working out was that he wouldn't be able to go to the lab at all.
Yeah.
And we ended up sitting with people who had an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old.
So it's now from 10 and below goes to the kids club, Oceaneers Club, and then 11 and 12 have to go to the Edge now.
Okay. So we were sitting with 2 families. It was actually a pair of father-daughter pair and another father-daughter pair. And the girls were 11 and one was turning 11 in 5 days. And so I was really worried for them that they wouldn't be able to be at the same club. But somehow I think 10-year-old who was only 5 days away from turning 11, she was able to go to the Edge somehow.
Yep. Parents can waive them up if the parents give permission and if there's space in the club. And Disney will try, especially if there's siblings or traveling companions, things like that, to make that happen. But it's like a individual by request to be able to waive up.
It does not sound like we had a lot of choice in our cabin type, but what kind of cabin did we book? And was this along the same lines of what you would have chosen if you had all of the options, or what would be your usual go-to?
Ooh, great question. So we had a veranda.
Yeah, I think you had a family-sized veranda.
It just had the queen-size bed and the world's firmest sofa.
I was going to look up your cabin. What is with that sofa? Why? Why is it so hard to try to sit on?
Do not throw yourself on that sofa. I'm just warning everybody. It was very supportive. I almost wish that we had our stateroom host turn it into a bed, because I really wonder what it would have felt like. I probably would have loved it.
No, because there's like a thing that lifts up. It's not
really the sofa.
It's not.
Interesting.
If it was a bed, it would not be more comfortable. So did your son sleep on the bunk?
Ended up.
Where did he sleep? He had to have slept on that then.
He just slept in the queen size bed with me.
Oh, okay. Very good.
So our host, as soon as we met him, he asked how we wanted the bed made up. And I just decided, you know what? It'll be so much nicer to have that extra space in the morning and not to have to get that cleaned up and put away. And so it just made the room more usable for the 2 of us.
Oh, perfect.
And he was barely there. So he ended up sneaking in one night. I didn't even notice. It worked really well.
So this was your first time on the Wish. What did you think of her? Like, what were your first impressions? Let's start with that. Okay. Oh, you had a hard time getting on.
Yes. I was just going to say, we had a bit of a snafu as we were boarding. So we had a pretty late boarding time. We spent the night at the Hyatt in the Orlando airport, which I fully recommend for anybody. It was not cheap, but it was so convenient and just really nice to only have to hop into a cab or an Uber one time. When we got to the port, it was a little crazy. Even our driver was surprised by the number of cars waiting to be let into the port. And we got out, we went through security. It was pretty easy. And we finally work our way up. You had told us to get are they called Disney Band Pluses? Is that what they are now?
Magic Band.
On all these other cruises, I kept dreaming of having a Magic Band on a cruise and how amazing it would be. And finally it was here, but we had to actually buy new ones. And we got those activated pretty easily by somebody special on the main floor of the terminal. And after we did that, we walked past the amazing cruise ship model and then started walking towards the giant yellow Mickey ears. And they were about, I don't know, probably 20, 40 people in front of us. We were really, really close to entering. And then there was that kind of ominous sounding overhead announcement that says that they had a temporary delay in boarding. And so they had just stopped people from getting on board. They repeated this over and over again. And the people in front of us and behind us started getting out of line and taking pictures with the professional photographers over to the side. And Tom and I kept wondering, I guess we'll just sit here for a while longer. We didn't want to get in line. There was a huge line behind us at that point, because I think we probably stood there for 40 minutes at least. And then they let us through the Mickey ears, but they shepherded us into what I think is the new concierge lounge, which is different from the last time I was there. I asked the cast member who was standing at the Mickey ears as I went by, hey, what's going on? And she said, oh, the gangway has broken and nobody can get on. So, or at least not the usual way. So they put us into the concierge room, and they were sending some people down this strange dark hallway. And it turned out that if you didn't have a rolling bag with you, then you could go down some steps, down many, many steps in the emergency exit. But they weren't letting anybody do that if you had a rolling bag. So Tom and I had only carried on for this trip. So we each had a rolling bag. And so we just sat there for a while. So then the plan was that they were going to come tag our rolling bags and get them on the boat another way. And then we would get to walk all the way up the emergency steps, I guess. And so we were ready to do that. But then maybe 5 minutes later, they came back and said, no, wait, they've actually fixed the gangway. Well, they fixed half of the gangway. And I'm still not really sure what was wrong, because I guess there are two sides of the gangway, the right side and left side, and they were able to attach the right side, but not the left side. So it looked really dire from our view from the concierge lounge, because you could see that the gangway wasn't all the way up against the ship, but they made it work, and we got on, and we were just so relieved to be on board at that point. I remember seeing or hearing about people getting wands as you board, and it was all very kerfuffled. It wasn't the usual pomp and circumstance of getting on a Disney ship, and I'm sure just because of what had been going on, it seemed really crowded, which was surprising because not many people had gotten on board recently. I really enjoyed the, slightly lighter motif of the ship, but like I said, it was pretty crowded right there when we got on board, but we were able to go immediately to our rooms at that point, which was the good news. And our room was beautiful, incredibly clean, really thoughtfully spaced out, lots and lots of charging ports. I really appreciated that. And I really was impressed with the refrigerator drawers. I hadn't been in a veranda, like a standard veranda room in a while, so I can't quite remember exactly what it was like when we were in one on the Magic, but this just seemed really thoughtfully planned. I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, that refrigerator door is specific to, or drawer is specific to the Wish. I assume the Treasure will have it too. So did you guys go to lunch when you got on board?
We did. We dropped our stuff, took some pictures, went out on the veranda, and then ran upstairs to lunch because we were starving. I think we had emailed and you had said, you've got to be starving. And we definitely were, but I was looking forward to the quick service stuff up on the pool deck. And so that's what we did. We kind of did a quick tour around and then found ourselves, Tom had the pizza, which he declared the best pizza ever. I will agree. It was delicious. And I think I had a burrito bowl from a Donald's Cantina, and it was terrific. I thought that the barbecue place looked amazing too. And I later did get some barbecue, and it was absolutely outstanding. I couldn't have been happier really with the food.
Oh, good.
The barbecue is my favorite.
Yes.
It's so good. And Donald's Cantina. Oh, I love Donald's Cantina. I love that bowl.
Meals. Yes, I know. The bowl's so good. And there aren't enough meals to eat. I needed at least 6 a day to be happy.
You need to go on the Treasure for sure.
Those will be 7-night cruises.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Did your son note any of the differences coming on this ship?
He was so into pizza, and he had kind of forgotten that you could just walk up and ask for food and they would give it to you, and that there was no transaction cost. He loved that. So what he ended up doing, one difference he did notice was that on all of the other ships that we've been on, they have the soft serve where it's self-serve, soft serve. And it took us a while to find the soft serve on the Wish. I wasn't ready for this, but they have it just around the corner from the chicken fingers. And they had people working there with the soft serve machines. And it wasn't too bad of a line. And Tom later learned that you could ask for an extra large cone, but they give you very small cones unless you ask for large cones. But we would frequently go and ask for 2. That was definitely a difference that he noticed. But I think it's probably overall good.
I've never heard of that hack. Yeah. I'm going to do that from now on. Yeah, I'm going to need the extra large cone, please. You know what I'm talking about.
I never did it myself, but one of my goals for this cruise was to have ice cream every day. okay. And I made it. And although I was a little bit sad because I went up there one night looking for Tom, and I thought, well, I'll just get some ice cream while I'm here. They closed it up because it's no longer self-serve. I know that I had been up on the Dream getting soft serve in the middle of the night, and there was not a problem. So that's the only problem, is that you can only get your extra large special cone during business hours.
So moving along in the day, did we do the welcome aboard sail away party?
So we were in line for the Aqua Mouse during the sail away party.
That's actually a good idea, because then you can see it.
Yeah.
And then you're about to ride something exciting.
Exactly. So I heard so much about the Dino District from your podcast that after we had lunch, we ran downstairs. It was time for the muster drill. We did a muster drill, and then we booked it back to the room. We should have already been wearing our swimsuits, but we didn't have our act together quite yet. And so we changed into swimsuits and then ran up to the pool deck, and it looked like the line for the Aqua Mouse was insane. So we decided to go check out the Dino District, and we were first in line for the Dino District, and we just had to wait for a while for them to fill up the slide with water, and that was fun. We did that several times, and then we decided to go check out the Aqua Mouse because I figured out that the line that I saw wasn't really the line. It was the pre-rope drop line. So it wasn't as bad as it looked, I'm sure. So by the time we got there was probably a 15-minute wait. And so we just hopped right in line. It was in the standard waiting area. Like, it hadn't gone past the usual maze. I can't think of what you call it.
We got in line for that. Or whatever.
Exactly. So we got in line and we made friends with people we were with and compared notes on everything. And then the sail away party happened. We had a really good view of the sail away party. You're right. That was just totally an accident. And then I think we actually started moving as we got on the Aqua Mouse itself. So that was kind of neat.
We've been on all 3 classes of ships, right?
Yes.
So are we team Aqua Duck, or Aqua Mouse then?
Oh, hard question. So I'm okay with the Aqua Dunk. I can do it, but it's just over so fast. I much prefer the longer water coaster at sea rides, but I don't know. I don't know if I would pick the Aqua Duck or the Aqua Mouse. I wish that we had gone back and done it again, because by the time we finished our ride, we had to do something. I can't remember what. We didn't get back in line. And then I did hear that the line was very, very small in the evening on the Nassau day. That would have been the time to go back, and I wish we had, because I think I had heard some people say that, well, the cartoons on the Aqua Mouse are cute, that they kind of wish you could see out the tube instead rather than having the cartoons. But I thought it was a nice mix. I really liked the combination, because it really was kind of a nice way to stay entertained and for them to slow down the ride at the beginning and keep you happy. And I also heard that the cartoons changed on the second day.
They do.
I was sorry we didn't see that.
Yes, there's 2 different shows. You can have the, I forget what the names of them are, but it's like the scuba diving show or the melting mountain show.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the melting mountain. That's a bummer. It's so neat when you come out of the dark tunnel and you're there on the ship and you can see everything around you. I thought it was really magical. We had a great time with that. We loved it.
Oh, that's great.
Very cool. So we do that. We do the muster drill. Were we early or late dining for this sailing?
We were late dining, and I don't think that we could have been early dining if we wanted to be, but I was happy with it. When we had put on late dining when my boys were little, that was hard. At the time, I had no problem just completely bailing on the dinner, the seated dinners, and just doing our own thing. But I was really glad to be able to go to all 3. I wanted to go to all 3 restaurants this time, and it was totally fine to have dinner when we did. And I went to all 3 shows. That was another one of my goals, was to hit all 3 shows. I was able to entice Tom to come with me to 2 of them. I went and picked him up from the Edge both times and got him to come along with the promise of candy. I did. I was not bribing him, but yeah, we had late dinner, and that worked great. Although we were exhausted, and our table mates were especially exhausted.
Well, I do want to circle back to the shows. Why don't we stick with dining for a little bit? And why don't you just kind of give us some highlights of the restaurants, your favorite dish, and what your favorite of the 3 restaurants overall was?
I was ready for 1923 to be my favorite, and it was our first. And I truly didn't know much about the restaurants up until about a week before our trip. I think I listened to some podcasts as we were driving up to the airport. The food really at all 3 was amazing. I really enjoyed the no frills, no gimmicks, 1923, just very basic. In the past, we've always just had a table with the 6 of us. So my parents and husband and the boys. And we knew that we might get put with people on this on this trip. We both decided independently that, yes, we wanted to do that. We're kind of surprised ourselves about that because we're kind of on the introverted side. But we thought, you know what, that sounds like fun. Let's just see what happens. Let's see who they put us with. I think it would have been nice to have had one of the more entertaining shows the first night, just to kind of break the ice a little bit better with the other families. It actually ended up being great because I think it would have been hard to have had a real conversation that first night with the shows going on at the Avengers restaurant and at the Arendelle restaurant. I was really happy with all three places. I think probably 1923 wins for me on that. I thought that the show for Avengers was better than I expected it to be. Basically, Arendelle was, I had no spoilers except for I had heard a little bit about the characters from Arendelle, and I was kind of glad that I had the preview that I had about Arendelle. I thought that they were all really well done and fantastic performers and entertainers for all three. Of course, at Avengers, a lot of it's just on the screen, which is almost easier in a way than some of the other experiences they offer at dinner. But I thought it was a really nice mix. Just the three different the restaurants were all so different. Was it a filet that I had at 1923 that was so good?
Yeah.
It was terrific. I'm having a hard time remembering. I basically just got pretty much whatever our server told me that I should get.
Nice.
And he did a good job making recommendations. My son is a pretty adventurous eater, especially on these trips. But he was in such a hurry to get back to the Edge that he just got soup basically all 3 nights. And then although the second 2 nights, he got both soups.
Would he just soup and run then?
We sat for a while. He would eat the bread. The soup would come. He was looking forward to dessert that first night because of was it churros? So he was really looking forward to the churros because while we were waiting to get onto the ship on the broken gangway, we were able to get onto the ship's Wi-Fi and look at menus for the restaurants. So we knew at that point that we were going to be at 1923. We checked it out and Tom was super excited about the churros. He was not going to make it to the churros. And I suggested that maybe I could bring them back to the room with me after the meal because I'm a really nice mom apparently. And they let me do that. Of course I did. It's Disney. They'll let you do anything. And that actually worked really well. So he didn't want them when he got back to the room at midnight. Actually, I was asleep, so I couldn't even tell him about them. But we had them for breakfast the next morning and they were great. So they fully recommend.
They held up?
Yeah, they held up.
Wow.
Totally recommend it. They went great with my coffee. I had this amazing coffee hack.
That does sound kind of great. I'm not going to lie.
Fully recommend it. So Tom got to have his churros. I think I ended up with, I went ahead and just got 2 desserts the second night at Avengers and I just couldn't decide. So, and now I'm not sure what it was I got, but I couldn't take one of those back with me. They're very small. So I didn't even feel like a glutton.
You're on vacation.
Exactly.
There is nothing wrong with just doing some classic rotational dining, especially on the Wish. I think your options are very diverse. I know some people are lukewarm on the Marvel show, but a great point that Amy did make, though, is that show, at least no matter where you're sitting, you're going to have a view of the show.
Yes.
Unlike
and it's clever. Listen, Marvel is not my thing. I've never seen one Marvel movie. And that is a lie because I have seen Lego Marvel. Lego made a Marvel movie. And so I've watched that with Blake 24 times. It's actually quite clever, which the Marvel show on the Wish is clever. I don't necessarily need to see that every single time I'm on the Wish, and I've been on the Wish a few times. It is a very clever show, so I will give them that. What about the Arendelle show? Were you happy you had heard about beforehand?
I was happy that I had heard about Olaf, and that I think maybe in the unofficial guide to Disney Cruise Line, I think that's where I read about it. And that usually they have Olaf, an animatronic Olaf on a cart. And then sometimes apparently there just is no Olaf. So for some reason, I was very excited to figure out which one of these would be the case for us. And I had told Tom about it. And we were both really excited. Either animatronic Olaf or how are they going to have a show without Olaf? Just, seeing how they roll with it. So I was glad I got him. And he was great because he would come through on his cart. And I can't remember the name of the guy who kind of plays the host for the event for the Arendelle show.
Oh, the Yoo-hoo.
Yes, that guy. We did that for the next week to each other. It was hilarious. Anyway, he and Olaf would have this terrific banter. It was just adorable. And the kids who were at our table loved it too. And everyone was really into it and the tables around us. So it was a lot of fun.
Who is Wandering Oaken for 200?
There you go.
Good job, Wandering Oaken. He was, I don't know what else that guy does on the show, but he was amazing. They were all terrific.
he sells his
wandering
wares
open.
in the shop.
That's right.
Yeah.
I needed to go find him.
Well, that seems like a great place to move this into entertainment. You did mention that you saw all three of the shows. We have The Little Mermaid, the Aladdin, and
Seize the Adventure.
yes, which is
I love that
probably
show.
the best variety show that Disney Cruise Line does.
I am sorry that I don't know that I've seen the other variety shows. So
I mean,
can't.
yeah, they don't compare. They just don't.
It was not what I was expecting. It was really cute. Seize the Adventure. That was our first one, obviously. It was adorable. Tom enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was nice and short. I agree with you that you kind of wondered to yourself, is this working? Oh, no, I think it's working. It works.
Yeah.
This is cute. I wish we had slightly better seats. I decided that it was best to go late and just expect that I would get a bad seat than to go early and waste a bunch of time sitting in the theater. I do kind of wish I had maybe split the baby a bit and gone 10 minutes early, but it was cute, definitely worth going. Tom booked it back to the club afterwards, declared it a fun time. Our favorite show was Aladdin, completely. The genie was hilarious. Tom loved it. I loved it. Everyone around us loved it. It was a great time.
I need to see that show. And I've seen it on the Fantasy. I have not seen it on the Wish. So yeah, I need to do that in May. I'm going to go see that show.
His jokes were amazing in that they were so current because he could not have told those same jokes in September. So he was on and he was fully there and I loved it. And so did Tom. It was a terrific experience. And I had seen Little Mermaid and it was good. I love the way they use video and bubbles and make it seem like you're underwater. I did not think that mermaid tails were too distracting, or like the lack of mermaid tails was too distracting, but I thought they really missed a possibility with Ursula. Ursula could have had a much more amazing costume. So I was kind of distracted by that the entire time. But I liked it. It was cute. It was well done. It had beautiful production values, great singing, of course. But once I saw Aladdin, I was really glad that Aladdin was the last show that we saw because it was hard to top that.
So your son experienced Edge for the first time, and you given us a few clues into his experience. But tell us about even like the very beginning. So obviously, did you guys go to open house? Did he go to the first moment that they had programming? It's obviously very different to go to Edge than Oceaneers Club, which is more of a just go and be. So what was that experience like for you guys?
So I can't remember exactly when we went the first time. I think we went before dinner, and I guess before that show. And the Icebreakers, Christy had said that we should be sure to be there for the Icebreakers event. Well, that didn't happen until 10:30. So we had plenty of time for that to happen. He wanted to check it out a little bit earlier, and they had a couple of different programming things until that time. Before, maybe an hour before the show, I went to the gym and he went to the show. Or I'm sorry, went to Ed. But I went with him. I wasn't sure if I could check him in or if I needed to check him in or if he could just go. And when we went there, it was during open house hours, so the door was open. But if you go when it's not during open house hours, you have to call from a phone if you don't already have a way to be let in. The kids with their Disney Band Pluses or with their key cards, or Key to the World cards, can get in the secret door. But when I would go to pick him up, I had to call unless he knew to come out and meet me. It was a pretty welcoming place. I wasn't sure what to expect because the Oceaneers Lab is so much fun and it's so cute. You just want to dive in as soon as you walk in. And I'm really sorry we didn't actually get into the Oceaneers Lab. I dropped him off. I went to the gym. I was able to lure him out of the Edge that night for the show. And then he went back before dinner. I picked him up for dinner. He came to dinner with me. We met our new table mates. And then he stayed for a little while for that, like I said, but then went back to the Edge. And I think at around 10:20, I sent him a text message, told him, hey, don't forget that the Icebreakers are starting at 10:30. You know, feel free to stay for that. And he just wrote back and he seemed very happy. And then I didn't see him again until after midnight when he showed up. It turned out that the Icebreakers were more meet and greet with the counselors. So they gave kind of a PowerPoint presentation, for lack of a better word, about all of the different counselors. I'm not sure how many there were, but he made friends with one of them who was from South Africa and just had the greatest time with her, really enjoyed getting to chat with her. I think they played chess together. She was involved in all of the games and activities they played. He would end up singing karaoke late into the night. And so I think that was probably his favorite activity all 3 nights.
Is it like one room that they're doing? Well, there's more than that one room. We've seen it, right? Like, you didn't go in there during the open house at all?
No, I've never been in there.
Well,
there's a very long room right where you walk in. And then there is this array of gaming consoles with comfortable places to sit.
Oh, right. The little cubbies or something, right?
Right. And usually Tom said that when he would walk in, he would either ask to join in a game or like one of the video games. There's a, I can't remember, I think it was on the Wii, like some sort of like sporting games on the Wii that he would, and it's really easy to play those with somebody else. So that was a nice way to make friends with people. And then I think his absolute favorite thing was that because they have, and hopefully this isn't scary for other parents, but I'm kind of glad I didn't know about it until after it happened. But basically, because they have free reign, they can say, hey, so his thing was that he would say to somebody, hey, do you want to go grab ice cream on the pool deck? And so he would get this little posse of kids and they would go roam the ship together. They would get ice cream and then they would head back to the Edge and do whatever the next thing there was. So other things they would do together would be like going to the Incredibles inflatable obstacle course. Mm-hmm. It has a better name than that.
So there's like the Hero Zone when it's the inflatable.
Yes.
But then that space in and of itself, I'm not really sure what they call it, but they have basketball and...
They went there to play dodgeball on the Nassau afternoon. They were supposed to take over the Hero Zone, but he said that when they got there, the inflatable stuff was gone. Oh. And it was just dodgeball, which they had a great time in that too. But there's also ping pong down there, and so there were a bunch of different activities that they could do. But the Edge kids did take it over for a little while in the afternoon.
So he really enjoyed his time in there.
Definitely. It was way more successful than I thought it could be. And I knew he's always had a good time, but he's always had his older brother with him too. So I wasn't sure how it would go. But he really just threw himself into it. And then I think it did help to go that first night and meet people who also didn't know other people. I had to beg him to let me know when I could come down and do the Hero Zone obstacle course with him, because I was, for some reason, really excited about that. And I almost dislocated my shoulder throwing myself through one of the obstacles. So definitely be careful if you go. It is not as soft as it looks. I was fine. I was really glad that I was fine. I think after that, I just took a few pictures of him and timed him racing. So I was good. I did not want to risk any personal injury. I was really glad that he had an iPhone with him. So he doesn't have a phone, but my other son had an old little tiny iPhone 12 mini. And I just got it on Wi-Fi. I got Tom his own Apple ID for the first time. And that way he was able to use iMessage. And I was so thrilled that iMessage actually did work on the boat, even if we weren't in port. And so it worked on the free Wi-Fi that the ship had. I'm sure that the ship would like me to use the messaging in the app, but I couldn't quite get the messaging in the app to work right. So I didn't try very hard.
Yeah. So there is a way to like sign up and to connect the different accounts for the app. But the one thing that I notice on the included app is that it doesn't always tell you, if you don't have it like open, that you've received a message. Yes. So like you have to like go into it to see if you have a message, which is not as useful for identifying people, like for sending people messages. So
I was really glad that we could communicate that way through iMessage, no matter where we were. And my third goal for this trip was not to pay for Wi-Fi, and I did it. I was able to communicate really well with Tom a few times when he just definitely was not checking the phone, and I had to track him down. I think I told you about that second to last night. Should I go ahead and tell that story?
Sure.
He'd been out till after midnight that first night, and I had just collapsed and wasn't paying too much attention. But on this Saturday night 2, I was up finishing a book, and I realized it was after midnight. And I think Gator app said that they closed at midnight. So I start thinking, okay, that's a little strange. Where'd Tom go? And I sent him a text and I hadn't heard back. So I went up to the pool deck thinking, oh, maybe they went up to the pool deck to get soft serve and they're sitting in chairs watching whatever movie is on Funnel Vision. There was nobody up there. Actually, there were some kids up there, but they were older kids. None of the younger kids were up there. And so I wandered around, went back to the room, Called Edge, nobody answered. I called guest services, and for some reason I've talked to guest services a couple times on this trip, and I always talked to the same completely charming individual. Loved him. And so he answered the phone and knew exactly who I was. And he was so soothing and reassuring because he said, oh, well, actually, the Edge just closed at 12:30. I'm sure he's on his way back right now. I think at this point it was like 12:32. So I thank him. And I'm feeling reassured a little bit, but I'm also really surprised because the app had been very clear. It said it closed at 11:59. And I did look to make sure on the second day that it didn't say it was open from 12 to 12:30 a.m. It didn't. It definitely was supposed to close at midnight. And so I walked out into the hallway to go track down Tom, hopefully somewhere around the Edge. And as soon as I get out into the hallway, here comes Tom trucking down the hallway. Just happy as he could. He knew it was later than I expected it to be, so he was really booking it. But he had been, of course, doing karaoke and paying no attention to his phone. So good for him. It worked fine. And the next day he was really, and it wasn't his fault. I mean, he was just there as late as they would let him stay there. Just, I could totally see why he thought that would be fine with me. And it was. I just didn't understand that they closed at 12:30. So the next night they did close at midnight, and he was home right at midnight.
Why don't we turn towards the ports here? We have 2 stops, Nassau and Castaway. Did we get off the ship in Nassau?
No. I really thought that I might this time. I've never been off the ship in Nassau, and I am going to get off the ship someday, but it was a beautiful day. Tom woke up, basically, ate his churros, and went to the Edge. And I decided to go wander around the pool deck to find a quiet place. And it was a really crowded ship. It was a full ship. There weren't a lot of places, but the adults decks were really great. The bar was crowded, but I went all the way up to the top of the adult area and there was nobody up there. It turned out it was a smoking area, but there was nobody smoking or doing anything up there. So I just parked myself and read a book and looked out at the port. It was absolutely gorgeous. And then I text Tom periodically to see when I should meet him down at the Hero Zone. That's really all we did that day. We just stayed on the ship and it was gorgeous. The next day, Castaway Key, it was supposed to be a pretty day, and we actually did reserve kayaks at the off of the beach. And I wasn't too sure how that would work, but it was much more seamless experience than I even expected it to be. Walked up, we stashed our stuff in a trunk that they pointed to, and they helped us get into a kayak, and they sent us off on our way. And it was pretty cloudy at that point, but the weather was fine. And then the wind really kicked up. And there were some people on a stand-up paddleboard who were getting swept out to sea. So they had to send a wave runner after them, which was exciting. And then we saw them tow them back into shore. And so it started raining then, and it was pretty nasty. But we were determined to keep on enjoying whatever we could. So we ended up actually snorkeling for a while after that. And that was a lot of fun. It was a much better snorkeling experience than I had before when Tom was really little and he kind of hung on to me like a lamprey the whole time. This time he was much more independent and we kept wheeling underwater and pointing at things that we saw. And we saw a surprising number of really interesting fish. I was impressed. There were a fair number of other people snorkeling and freezing. We were all freezing. But then when we got out, we found lunch at Cookies 2. I was sure that we walked all the way to Cookies 2, where it was much less crowded. The original Cookies was crazy. So we'd had a cabana in past years, and I wasn't sure what it was going to be like on Castaway Key without the cabana. And we still had a great time. But Tom was freezing. So by the time we finished lunch, so we got our ice cream, our soft serve, which was, of course, still self-serve there. And then Tom just headed back to the ship, and I decided to do my walk on Castaway Key and ended up at the adult beach where I had never been. And I got myself a drink at the adult beach bar. There were 0 people on the beach at the adult beach. None. There were 2 people at the bar with cabana wristbands. So I guess they were going to squeeze out every second that they could out of their cabanas. But it was totally empty because of the weather at that point. But a nice day nonetheless. I got my nice 3-mile walk in, went all the way to the observation tower, walked up it, had a great view of the ship, walked back down. It was terrific.
Did you get your medal?
I did not. Gosh, I didn't even think about getting it. I did see a sign.
So the medals are at the bike barn, and it's basically self-paced, self-monitored, whatever, 5K. And so you can do your walk and pick up your medal.
Oh, well, I did do the 5K several years ago. I think on the second cruise I did that, and I'm glad I did it. But I definitely did not need another medal. And also, since I got that drink at the Serenity Bay bar, I took the tram back. I probably didn't quite do the 5K. It was.
What did you think of the Serenity Bay area, seeing it for the first time?
It was lovely. I wonder how crowded it gets. It wasn't very big. I know that there aren't very many cabanas, but it was really nice. The bar was lovely. There was a lot of seating at the bar. And I guess there must be some sort of barbecue place down there too, right?
Yeah, it's by the bar. It's like the other side.
Behind the bar. That's right. It was shut down by then. So I thought it was really nice. I would love to go back when the weather's nice with a date. But even just by myself, it was really nice. And bartenders were really friendly and happy to see us there because it was a very small crowd.
So your son was in the Edge often. So what other activities did you do to fill your time besides reading?
I read a book. I read an entire book in Nassau. I sat on the veranda a lot. I'm definitely a big veranda lover. Mm-hmm. It was a terrific day out on the veranda. I could sit on that veranda and just watch the cruise ships go by, watch come and go all day. So after I spent some time up on the top floor of the adults only area, I wanted to sit on the veranda and watch the cruise ships leave. So that's what I did. And then that's where I was when we left. So I just spent a lot of time just hanging out there. I called my husband. I did have cell service there in Nassau. I ended up on that Nassau night when Tom went back. That was the night the Chiefs were playing that night. It was definitely the night when you had to get Peacock Plus to watch it streaming because it wasn't on network TV. The people at the table next to us at the Avengers dinner actually had it playing on one of their iPhones. So I could kind of watch it and also watch Ant-Man. It was nice. So I went back to the room and I was so happy I was able to watch the Chiefs game in the room. At some point in the middle of the Chiefs game, I think it was still on, I decided to go upstairs and check out the pirate party. This is embarrassing, but we have this little stuffed penguin that is like our family mascot. So I wanted some pictures of the stuffed penguin at the pirate party. So that's what I did. I was the weirdo on the pool deck during the pirate party because I wanted to see the fireworks. And so I went up there. But the sad thing was that I had just missed the fireworks.
Oh, no. And then you missed the band too then.
The band played for a while.
Oh, okay.
The band was still going. People were dancing. It was a party scene. It was interesting. I was surprised by the level of enthusiasm. We'd never really gone to the pirate party before. So
the Wish pirate party is different. And in my opinion, the Superior pirate parlay is what they call it. And it's a good one. Yeah, it was fun. People were having a good time after the fireworks were over and thinking, when are they going to start? Where's everybody going? So I finally asked somebody and I had missed it, but it was still fun to be out there. I love seeing all the other cruise ships kind of stalk up behind to watch our fireworks. Yeah, they steal the view of the fireworks shows.
It is cool to see it from another ship because I was on the Magic one time and saw the Dream show.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Was I on the Wish and saw the Dream? I feel like that happened once last year for me.
It is cool because very few other ships do anything like that, even to be on another ship.
I thought that Tom and his crew from the Edge might go up and watch the fireworks, but they did not go up there. I don't know what they were doing then, but they were having a lot of fun. And I'm sure that there was some contingent, but he stayed in the club.
Were there any other places on the ship that you found yourself lingering in?
So I really wanted to go check out the Hyperspace Lounge. Where did I get Hyperion? Our last Disney, I should have mentioned this as part of my full disclosure. Our last Disney experience as a family was on the Galactic Star Cruiser in June of 2022. And I remember thinking it was the perfect time because my kids were still just the right ages, not too young, not too old. And I wanted to go on before they kind of outgrew it. And I think that they never would have outgrown it, to be honest. But then I was so shocked this year when they announced that they were shutting that down. But I was really glad that the Wish had the Hyperspace Lounge to experience, to kind of give us a taste of what we had on the Galactic Star Cruiser. So Tom actually met me there. I said, hey, how about I go see if there's a seat for us, and if there is, then we can go have a quick drink before we go to dinner. And I get there, and there's this little table for two right by the door, and the people who have been sitting there had just gotten up, and so I parked myself there. And
was it crowded otherwise?
It was hard to get a seat. There were a couple groups of 4 that came in looking for seats. And so I didn't even feel bad because this was definitely a table for 2. But I felt a little bit bad because I was trying to text Tom directions for how to get there. But he found his way there and, got to press the little button to open the sliding door. And he was really impressed with the production values and the theater of the books. And our server was really nice and really charming. And it was pretty quick, but we had really all the time we needed in there for while we were there. I would have loved to have hung out in some of the other spaces, but we really only saw the Bayou because we walked by it all the time. And we were in the Hyperspace Lounge just for a drink on that last night. And I was glad that Tom could be in there. I wasn't too sure how that would work. I wanted to check it out, but I also didn't want to ditch Tom to go. So it was nice that we could both be there, even though he's 12.
Yeah, it's different on the Wish because of the fact that there's really, besides the pool deck, no adult district. There's no adult areas. Do the other bars, Lake, do you know? Do they cut off at 9:00, go to adult only?
That is a good question. I'm actually not sure. This is going to be a question for Future Lake. Future Lake here. Any of the lounges that aren't already in a specific adult only space become adults only at 9 p.m. That includes Keg and Compass, Hyperspace Lounge, the Bayou, and Luna's Libations. So as we kind of wind down here, I always like to ask, do you have any notable cast interactions from this sailing?
Well, definitely with the guest services crew member, who was just so nice and reassuring. I had actually gone to guest services that first night just to see if I could get on the list for Cabana. And he was actually much more encouraging than I thought he would be. And then I was really excited the next day when I had a missed message on my phone from guest services. I was super excited thinking, oh my gosh, did they actually do it for me? And so I get off of my treadmill and I go make the phone call from the phone inside the gym. And no, they were just calling to tell me that they did not have a Cabana for me. I was like, I wouldn't have gotten off the treadmill for this. But he was really nice. And it turns out I also had asked, I was just curious if there were any other rooms, any room upgrades available, and there were none. So that was easy. I was glad that I had already unpacked. I don't know who they were running the muster drill, but the muster drill for our stateroom was strangely entertaining. It was definitely the best muster drill we've had. So they did a really great job with that. We hardly got any pictures. We got one photograph of the two of us at the Avengers restaurant. And that was
Did you buy it?
Yes, definitely. But I was glad that I hadn't bought the package because it was one picture.
You can return the package. So just for listeners, if you ever find yourself in a situation where your children aren't cooperating or you just determine that you don't have enough pictures, you can downgrade your package to the 10 package, or you can just refund that package and buy a single picture.
That's great. At the parks, it's so nice because the pictures show up on your phone, and then that's not how it works on the boat, right? You have to go to Shutters. On
the Wish, it's back to being on your phone, but I think you go to a place and scan it in, but then it's on your phone because you still buy it through your phone.
I definitely was able to get it on my phone, but I had to go to a little kiosk and mess around with the computer screen to make it happen.
Yeah, there's a scan thing that has to occur, but then they come through your phone. I think I bought pictures a few times from the Wish, and yet I still never quite remember how it actually happens. So. And
then you have to go into your Disney account. You can download it there, and they remind you have to do this within 28 days or whatever the number is. But while I was still standing there, I just downloaded it straight to my phone into my photos, and it's there forever. So that was great. And they were very nice. The photos were great. The lines for character photos were really long, so I never did any of those. And I was a little sorry about that, but it's okay.
Yeah, I feel like the lines on a 3-day are just longer for characters and things like that, just because everybody is trying to cram in such a limited space and a limited time. So I think that's why.
It ended up being a really restful trip for me. And I had a great break. I love these. I always tell my husband it's not a vacation if there's a dishwasher anywhere. But this was, absolute candy vacation. It was terrific. I just wish it had been longer.
What's next for you?
We have a couple things on our travel bucket list with the boys. I'd like to go to some Spanish-speaking countries, and so I was trying to figure out a way to make that work with our schedule and the Disney cruise ship schedule. I'm not sure we'll be able to do that, but I definitely want to find another trip within the next year or so to make that happen. My older son would very much like his own Disney trip with me, which I am totally happy to make happen if we can make the schedule work out well. But I think hopefully it'll be the 4 of us or even the 6 of us and on a Disney cruise ship. I have to say that the Wish, as beautiful as it is, it's not my favorite ship still, because I love the classic ship so much. But I will be happy to go on another Wish trip. Absolutely. And I didn't miss concierge. I will admit, didn't. And here's my one tip that I have to give. Okay. I had read, I think, in the unofficial guide, to order room service coffee if you're a coffee drinker, to order room service coffee before you go to bed, and in the morning it'll still be hot. And so I decided to test this out. I ordered the room service coffee I think I ordered it for 2 because I wanted to make sure I had plenty. And they also brought a little carafe of whole milk, and I put that into my fridge drawer. And in the morning I had very hot coffee, and it was not as good as the coffee that you can go buy somewhere, I'm sure. Not as good as the coffee in the concierge lounge, but it was terrific to not have to leave my room and just to be able to go out onto the veranda and drink all the coffee with all the milk while Tom finished snoozing back in the room. So there's my tip. I loved it. And also the second night I actually ordered milk and cookies for Tom too. And I wasn't sure he would eat them, but he was ravenous and was totally happy to see that milk and cookies.
Ah, that's cute. I did the coffee in the carafe thing like 8 years ago, 5 years ago at least. And that coffee was so cold in the morning. So I was on a classic ship. I'm almost certain it was either the Magic or the Wonder. And it was just some cold coffee. So who knows? Good on the Wish. And we'll have to see. We'll have to have like listeners report in the trip report on either Instagram or Facebook and let us know whether you've had hot coffee delivered and on what ship. So we can see who's got the warm crafts, but it sounds like the Wish does, which means I am going to do that at the end of May when I cruise again, because I do hate running around and looking for my coffee.
It's just so nice not to have to get dressed in the room.
Yeah, right?
It really feels like vacation. So,
yeah.
And somebody else made the coffee and they're going to clean it up afterwards. And it's magical.
Yeah, we always do the little breakfast card. But we'll always do it like obnoxiously early. So we end up with breakfast at like 5:30 in the morning.
Your first breakfast.
Our first breakfast. That. Yep.
See, I thought about doing that too, but then I have to be awake and answer the door. And I decided that I'd much rather do all of that early. So if you get the churros from 1923 and combine it with the coffee the next morning, it's terrific. And they'll even give you the little container of, is it like a caramel sauce that goes with the churros, and it was made a terrific little first breakfast.
Oh my God, that sounds so good.
I recommend it. Christy, thank you so much for making this happen for me and for performing your magic of making the correct date happen for me. Big thanks to you and Disney for making that so easy for us. So, hey, she even saved money because it was a slightly cheaper room somehow. It worked out great. I just can't thank you enough. So what a great trip. Thank you again.
I'm so glad you got to experience this with your son.
And you're right. I'm in a much better mood now. So thank you for having me on. This was really fun.
We all love good vibes. But that is going to wrap up our show. Amy, thank you again so much for being on and sharing you and your son's experience on the Disney Wish.
Great to see you both. And thanks so much for having me on. It was a treat.
Absolutely. And we will see y'all next time on the DCL Podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show. Once again, we want to thank Amy for coming on and sharing her and her son's experience sailing on board the Disney Wish. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We would also like to thank our Patreons who make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show and join our community by visiting patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.